So, welcome back everyone, and before we get into today's topic, I'd like to remind all of my American viewers that today, as the time of this video going up, today is Memorial Day. Today is a very important holiday that most people just take for granted. We should all, also in the countries, even if you're not American, considering what countries America's fought in, they saved Korea, World War One, World War Two. We should always remember the men who died so that we could have the freedom that they never got to have, or that they had to give up for us. God bless them. Okay, so now that that is out of the way, I'd like to remind you all about my 100 subscriber goal by June 11th. We're almost there, and I think we can make it. So today's topic is once again about Marvel, which we haven't covered in a while. So today, I'm going to go over what kind of X-Men team I would make. I'm not going to make up any original characters because no, I'm not doing that. But we're just gonna see what's my ideal X-Men team. As you can see from here, these are the three main exposures I have to the X-Men. The animated series from the 90s, well, it's not my favorite thing from the X-Men. When I think X-Men, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Stan Lee's run, which is incredibly short, but just about the first 60 something issues of X-Men comics I've read. I've tried to read others, but I don't like them. And then Wolverine the X-Men, which is the best one. I've also seen most of the movies, but movies aren't good. So not only am I going to walk you through what team I would want consist of an X-Men group, I'm also going to talk about what kind of villains I might have for a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. That's interesting. So without further ado, let's do it to it. So of course we have to have Cyclops as the leader. And while it's no secret that I do not like X-Men 97. But I have to say that Cyclops is handled very well there. And I think if he's this is for I'm not planning on any X-Men I'm not going to plan on any X-Men fan series or anything like that, but if I had to make say an X-Men TV show, this is kind of the feel I'd want for it. If we keep Cyclops the way he is in 97 and the original animated series is fine for him, I think you've got a good version of Cyclops on your hands. Just this kind of tough Boy Scout, I suppose. He doesn't take it from the other members, but he's a good guy. He's not mean like Wolverine. I mean, he's not afraid to yell at his other members, but I don't really know how to characterize him per se. Because Cyclops was never my favorite character, so he's kind of undefined for me. All I'll just say is just keep him the way he is in X-Men 97, and you've got a good Cyclops. Then Wolverine. Just keep him the way he's in the animated series. He's great there. The tough guy that can act kind of like a loner, but he's not a loner. The X-Men are his family. He really does care about them. He doesn't take anything from anyone. As he says, I go where I wanna go, bub. And I'd like to I suppose I'd keep his backstory pretty much the same way it was in the original series, but that's kind of confusing. I don't know. I guess just keep it that way. Their costumes, by the way, the X-Men's costumes. If I had to design costumes for them, I'd say for Cyclops, just give him his 90s costume. Same thing with Wolverine. I don't tend to like most of the other costumes these characters get. The the brown and yellow Wolverine costume is fine, but it's too boring. And I don't like it when he just doesn't have a mask at all. This looks a lot better. And there's Nightcrawler, one of my most popular videos is on why Nightcrawler is my favorite member of the X-Men. And yeah, I like a mix of how he was in the animated series and Wolverine in the X-Men would be a good job. You keep the religious side of his character. It's important, and I really like that the show tackled that at all. I'm very grateful for that. Religion is important. And even if you're not religious, the episode teaches that it's always important to just have something to believe in so that you don't give up hope. Faith is a powerful thing. That's the message I take away from his character, and that's probably why he is my favorite character. I also like the Bamf. And yeah, I just also like the way he is in the anime, that Wolverine in the X-Men, where he's kind of sneaking around. He was sneaking around, learning Magneto's true plot. I think that was pretty interesting. Also, just the way that he didn't immediately rejoin the team. He wanted to first help other mutants. I like that. Just keep him about that way. Then I'd keep in Rogue. I don't like most of the female members of the X-Men. I don't know. It's just that, okay, I'm just going to say this right now. Storm is not going to be on this list. I hate Storm. Storm is my least favorite member of the X-Men that I know of. There are probably some really lame D-list characters that have been in the team over the years. I don't know, but why do I hate Storm? Well, I hate Storm because she has absolutely no personality. I remember in the end of the animated series when Professor X is dying and he says all these things to each member of the X-Men, he has something thoughtful to say to all and passionate to say to all of them, except for Storm. It's just, you're nice. That's pretty much what it boiled down to. What is her personality? She's stoic? Even in the episodes of that and Wolverine and the X-Men, she got one focus episode in that show, only one. She wasn't a character, she was a plot device. Storm is a nothing and I don't care about her. But Rogue, yeah, just 90s series. Boy, that's a shocker. I like the way she was there. There's not really much more to say. The first time I watched the show, I just thought she's fine, I guess. What even is her personality? But second time I watched it, I understood, no, Rogue does have a personality. She's always ready for a one-liner busting in, but she's not just tough. She's very vulnerable about her powers, her history with Mystique and her father. It's interesting. And I mean, she's quite the looker too, if you know what I mean. Well, all guys who watch that show know that. Then Beast. Beast is probably Beast is my third favorite member of the X-Men. I just really liked how he was characterized in both of the cartoons I've seen. Same thing in the original comics in the 60s. It's been a long time since I read any of those, so I don't really remember that much about him, but he was sort of the way he was there, except, well, all versions of the Beast maintain he's just this nice, smart guy that's always very kind to everybody, who's got a good heart, who doesn't really care much about his mutation. Because in the comics originally, before he became a big furry monster, he was just a guy with huge feet and huge hands. That's why he was called the Beast. And I like that he didn't care that he looked like that. And then even in the cartoons, even though he looks like this, he just doesn't care. Much like Nightcrawler, he was able to just get over what he is. This is what he is. He cannot change what he is. He can change who he is, but not what he is. And he's fine with what he is. That's very deep. And I would definitely keep he's always quoting Shakespeare and Mark Twain and Emily Dickinson and stuff like that. I always liked that. Gave him a little more personality, especially when it related to what was actually going on. I'll always remember the scene from the Phoenix Saga in the cartoon where he says, um, parting is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell. Emily Dickinson. It's very profound. Then, Iceman. Yeah, I like Iceman a lot. In the original comics, he's okay. I mean, to tell you the truth, I've read a ton of 60s Marvel comics, and while I would say that all the Stan Lee runs of them were good, great, really, X-Men, while he did write some great stuff, it was just good. Also, I never liked Avengers that much, but X-Men just didn't hit it for me. It just didn't do it for me the same way it did for the other mags. And you can tell that because X-Men got canceled in the early 70s. It was not selling well at all. But as for Iceman, he'd be, the comic relief, just the way he is in Wolverine and the X-Men. I mean, when you're voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, you've got to, with that exact same Ben 10 voice, you got to play the comic relief. I also liked there that he got the shirt instead of just going around shirtless with his body covered in ice all the time. I like that. And yeah, just keep him the way he is here. He didn't even have that much screen time in the show. He was just there occasionally. He never got a focus episode, but he was memorable, which is a lot more than I can say about Storm. Then I'd keep Kitty, except she's the last member of my team, meaning there is no Jean. Jean used to be my least favorite member until I thought about it more and realized she has some speck of personality. And since she is plot important usually, she's still better than Storm, I guess. And yeah, since I always got annoyed that Jean just almost never has a superhero name. She was Marvel Girl in the 60s, and then I guess the X-Men got older. Instead of just calling her Marvel Woman or something, which I think would have still sounded kind of dumb, but whatever. they just didn't give her a superhero name, which confuses me. Do the X-Men have secret identities? I think they do. It seems so, but it just doesn't make sense. That why do they all have superhero names except for her? It doesn't make any sense. So here, since when Jean died in the comics in the 80s, they just made Kitty Marvel Girl. It's okay, yeah, she's Marvel Girl. Much like Iceman should be the same way she is in Wolverine and the X-Men. I just like their dynamic they had in that show. They're both just the two young comic relief that don't actually do much, but they always stick out. Like the scene where their X-Men are all on the Blackbird and Iceman is sleeping and sees like that ice comes out of him and he starts freezing up the Blackbird and she gets annoyed. I like that scene. Now, what would I do for the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? Well, of course you have to keep Magneto as the leader. And yeah, I didn't mention Professor X here because, as I've said 1,000 times before, just make it like the animated series. But to be fair, a lot of versions of Professor X are similar, so I'd say just the way he is there is fine. But for Magneto, I'm not going to say make him like the animated series. I'm going to say make him the more so the way Stan Lee wrote him. Do I respect a character that is a Holocaust survivor? Of course, especially I deeply respect that. I'm surprised Chris Claremont and the writers went forward with that, and they kept it in the animated series, even though they never explicitly said that he was from the Holocaust, in Germany in 1939, 1940. But I like how Stan Lee characterized him as he's not a sympathetic villain, and I don't really like sympathetic villains that much. Magneto was good in the cartoons, I'm not going to deny that, but sometimes we need a Jack Horner and not a Zuko, and Zuko becomes good anyway. Sometimes it's good to have a villain who just relishes in his evil deeds. A villain who can just straight up admit that he's evil. I mean, in the 60s, it was never called just the Brotherhood like it is later. It's called the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. The man knows he's evil, and he doesn't care. His entire motivation just boils down to mutants are Homo superior. They're better than Homo sapiens. Mutants should all, or humans should all either be enslaved by mutants or just be killed by them. That's it. That's his entire most motivation, personality, and there's nothing wrong with that. He was really threatening and intimidating back then. He kind of lost. He still had a presence as the franchise went on, but when they have to make him sympathetic, he's just not as intimidating as he used to be. And I'm not the biggest fan of him having history with Professor X. Again, it's worked, but if we're going like this, maybe him not having history with Professor X is better. Or if he does, it's instead he has history with him. Professor X was a guy he always Charles always wanted him to be better, but he just was never better. He just got more and more evil because he was obsessed with the idea I'm superior. I think that's pretty interesting on its own merits. Then you have to keep the Scarlet Witch, of course. She's in one episode of the animated series. So I don't have much to say about her there. She doesn't really have much. None of the Brotherhood have much personality outside of Magneto in the original comic. So again, just Wolverine and the X-Men. She's pretty interesting there. Maybe you could even pull something with there, like how she was in that show, where she's questioning what Magneto is doing, but it's her father, so she doesn't really want to go. She doesn't want to betray him. Of course, she did betray him at the end of the show, but and that's again, I'm not planning out any specific story. This is just a how would I do the X-Men just in general. Again, Quicksilver just the same as he is there. He's good there. I also liked keep him how he was in the 60s comics though, where he was very protective of his sister. Especially since you don't really get much with either of them in well, anything really except for Scarlet Witch. And I mean, in the movies, Scarlet Witch is not at all how she is in the comics or cartoons, and she's just sad. And I guess, I mean, even before WandaVision, what even was her personality? And Quicksilver had no personality, especially since he was only in one movie. So I'd just say, make him this kind of fast-talking guy that can get angry really easily. I don't know. That's not Sonic. I don't know how to characterize Quicksilver. Just make him like that. Fast talking guy that doesn't take anything from anyone and is very protective of his sister and can get angry pretty easily. But not super easily. It's not Wolverine. Then there's the Toad. I like how Toad is in Wolverine and the X-Men, where he's just the guy that messes everything up and is comic relief, but I think a better way to characterize him would be more so as I imagined him. Make him as this. He's called the Toad. He's this fat dude. This that looks weird. Make him this creepy, weird guy who speaks in a weird tone of voice. Make him like that. Make him. He's not much of a threat, but he's super unsettling. Make him a weirdo. That's how I'd characterize him. And there's Mastermind. I don't really know what to say about Mastermind. I'm only keeping him here because he was with the Brotherhood in the 60s, so I guess make him an egotist. Make him think everyone he's better than everybody except Magneto. Make him actually loyal to Magneto. He'll think I am better than everybody else because I am loyal to Magneto, the greatest of all time or something like that. I don't know. But make him really disgusted by everyone around him. Make him think, well, I am a true genius. So, and with my powers, I can serve our Lord Magneto or something like that. I don't know. Also, keep in Sabretooth. I mean, Wolverine is on my ideal X-Men team, so you gotta have Sabretooth. Do I really understand why the two of them hate each other? No. I think it's something like Sabretooth just tried to kill Wolverine's girlfriend or something years ago. But I can still agree that these two have one of the greatest rivalries in comicdom, at least, or cartoondom, rather. It's just, as soon as they see each other, they get super angry and start beating each other up. That's it. That's all we need from a rivalry sometimes. Not every character can be a Sonic and Scourge type situation. Sometimes you just need two guys that hate each other, and that's it. No depth required. And there's Mystique. Yeah, Mystique is she's usually the same, and, well, every incarnation of her I've seen is pretty much the same, except for the movies. Which I guess means just the cartoons, but yeah, I think making her loyal to Magneto was a good call, but also making her say that she's been around on her own. She's done plenty of stuff. I mean, in the animated series, she was Rogue's adopted mother. She was Nightcrawler's biological mother. In Wolverine and the X-Men, she was part of Project Weapon X or something. Just make it a character like that. That's it. And then there's the Blob. Well, I think one quick funny thing I want to know about the Blob is that the character's name came from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby couldn't think of a name for him. And then the guy that brought them sandwiches, I guess lunchtime, they asked him, "What do you think we should call this guy?" And he said, "Why not call him the Blob?" That's not a joke. That's actually where the name comes from. I don't know why Stan and Jack couldn't have come up with it themselves, but hmm, I guess because it's so easy, but it works. It's such a simple name, but it works. In the comics, he was originally just some circus performer that I guess he didn't tell people who's immune or else they'd hate him. He just appeared to be some disgustingly grotesque, overweight guy who was so huge and his body was so powerful that people couldn't hurt him. And then he just joined Magneto and he said, "Hey, I can you want to help me take over the world? You have power," and that's it. That's all Blob needs to be. Not much more to it than that. And well, this video went on for a lot longer than I thought it would, but I guess I had more to say than I thought. Specifically about the villains, funnily enough. Well, a hero is only as good as his villain. So, that's it. You can check me out on Casting Call Club. I mean, I'm still waiting to get a job there. I don't know. Remember my 100 subscriber goal by June 11th? I'm very excited for the video I've got planned for that when that happens. And that's all for now. Well, oh wait. I'm so sorry. Comment down below if what would you guys do for your own X-Men team? Who would your members be? I put about 7 members, so let's say 7 members. Any villains you think are worth talking about? That's all for now, and as always, keep on juicing!